Hello, from University of Macau. This is CRU, Consulting Center for Research and English Writing, English Language Center. This online presentation is one of the CRU workshops. Today, we are going to learn proofreading, as well as techniques for finding and fixing errors in your writing. Hopefully, you will find this workshop helpful. Here is the outline of this workshop. First, we are going to learn the definition of proofreading. Then, we talk about where to start your proofreading. There is a checklist to give you some clues to find the errors in your own writing. In this checklist, there are some common errors. We will move on to learn these common errors in the third part. However, it is not enough to know the errors. We have to learn how to find them and fix them. And techniques about finding and fixing errors will be introduced respectively in the last two parts. Do you have the experience that your teacher found out some simple mistakes in your own writing, but in fact, you know you shouldn't make these simple mistakes? You just can't find them by yourself. That's because one may mainly focus on the content and the structure of an essay when he or she starts writing. And grammar, vocabulary, and format are very easily to be ignored. In this case, we need to proofread in order to find and correct these errors. So what is proofreading? Proofreading is the last stage in the writing process. It is a process examining a document to find and correct errors and omissions after you finish your writing. The errors are about grammar, spelling, punctuation, and format, including citation styles. It is always a good idea to proofread your paper several times after you have finished writing it, so that you can improve it. Now, maybe you are ready to start proofreading. If you don't know where to start, here are some hints for you. From the grammar aspect, you can check the verb tenses, passive voice, articles, prepositions, subject-verb agreement, conjunctions, clauses, such as relative clause and adjective clause. Besides, you need to check your vocabulary, such as word form, spelling, word choice, phrasal verbs, idioms, and repetition. And don't forget to check the format of your writing, such as margins, page numbers, and so on. Citation or reference style is also important. Some reference styles like APA and MLA are widely used. APA stands for American Psychological Association, while MLA stands for Modern Language Association. No matter which citation style you use, remember to keep it coherent. Please pay attention to the detailed requirements of each citation style. There are some common errors that you need to watch out for, such as sentence fragments, run-on sentences, parallel structure, subject-verb agreement, spelling, and punctuation. What are sentence fragments? Complete sentences convey complete thoughts. Sentence fragments suggest that your thinking is fragmented because you are only presenting a piece of complete thought. Most of the time, you don't want to convey the impression that your thinking is incomplete. Remember, a sentence is a unit that has a subject, a verb, and words to complete the thought. A sentence fragment occurs when you forget one of these parts, but still capitalize and punctuate your words as a complete sentence. In a word, a complete sentence equals subject plus verb plus a complete thought. Fragment equals no subject or verb plus not a complete thought. One way to recognize sentence fragments is to learn the words which often lead to incomplete thoughts, such as although, because, especially, even, expect. For example, if, including, instead of, so that, since, such as, that, which, who, and when. Not all sentence fragments have such tip-off words, but when you see a sentence beginning with one of these words, you should check to see if it's a complete thought. Now let's look at an example. She runs 2 miles, then did 50 sit-ups. There is no problem for the first sentence, but for the second one, there is no subject in this sentence, so it is a fragment, not a complete sentence. Therefore, we can revise this sentence with the help of conjunction, and we get the correct one. She ran 2 miles, and then did 50 sit-ups. The conjunction connects the two sentences so that they can share one subject. What are run-on sentences? A run-on sentence has at least 2 parts, either one of which can stand by itself. In other words, 2 independent clauses. But the 2 parts have been put together coherent, being improperly connected. It is important to realize that the length of a sentence really has nothing to do with whether a sentence is a run-on or not. Being a run-on is a structure flaw that can plague even a very short sentence. For example, the sun is high. Put on some sunblock. An extremely long sentence, on the other hand, may be a run-off-at-the-mouth sentence, but it can be otherwise sound and structurally. In a word, a run-on sentence contains 2 or more thoughts running together in a sentence without adequate breaks. Now let's look at an example. Some students think they can study for an important exam by cramming all night. They are probably wrong. This is an example of comma splice. A comma splice connects 2 independent clauses with only a comma. There are several ways to fix a comma splice. First, we can insert a period and start a new sentence. Then we get this one. Some students think they can study for an important exam by cramming all night. Full stop, and then we start a new sentence. They are probably wrong. Also, we can insert a comma plus a coordinating conjunction. Some students think they can study for an important exam by cramming all night, but they are probably wrong. Besides, we can use a semicolon. Some students think they can study for an important exam by cramming all night, semicolon. They are probably wrong. Now, let's discuss what is parallel structure. Parallel structure is one of the quickest and easiest ways to make a good impression on your readers. We can get parallel structure by combining similar ideas and sentences that are in consistent grammatical forms with the use of conjunction. Here, please pay attention to the consistent grammatical forms. That's to say, the grammatical form before the conjunction and the one after the conjunction are of the same structure. For example, the children are energetic and noisy. Energetic and noisy are both adjectives. She bought a skirt and a blouse. Skirt and blouse are both nouns. He walked slowly and confidently to the witness stand. Slowly and confidently are both adverbs. Swimming and hiking are my favorite summer activities. Swimming and hiking are both gerunds. However, in this sentence, he enjoys reading and to cook on Sundays. Reading and to cook are not parallel structures. Thus, we can revise it like this. He enjoys reading and cooking. Now, you may have noticed that conjunctions are very important when fixing sentence fragments, run-on sentences, and wrong parallel structures. And now, let's watch the conjunction-junction video to see how conjunctions work. Enjoy it.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up words and phrases and clauses.
Conjunction, junction, how's that function?
I got 3 favorite cars that get most of my job done.
Conjunction, junction, what's their function? I
got and, but, and, or, they'll get you pretty far. And, that's an additive, like this and that. But, that's sort of the opposite. Not this, but that. And then there's or, O-R. When you have a choice like this or that. And, but, and, or, get you pretty far.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up 2 boxcars and making them run right. Milk and honey, bread and butter, peas and rice.
Hey, that's nice.
Dirty but happy, digging and scratching, losing your shoe and a button or 2. He's poor but honest, sad but true. Boo-hoo!
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up 2 cars to 1 when you say something like this. Choice, either now or later, or no choice. Neither now nor ever.
Hey, that's clever.
Eat this or that, to grow thin or fat. Never mind, I wouldn't do that, I'm fat enough now.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up phrases and clauses that balance like out of the frying pan and into the fire. He cut loose the sandbags, but the balloon wouldn't go any higher. Let's go up to the mountains or down to the seas. You should always say thank you or at least say please.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up words and phrases and clauses in complex sentences like in the mornings when I'm usually wide awake, I love to take a walk through the gardens and down by the lake where I often see a duck and a drake. And I wonder as I walk by just what they'd say if they could speak. Although I know that's an absurd thought.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up cars and making them function.
Conjunction, junction, how's that function?
I like tying up words and phrases and clauses.
Conjunction, junction, watch that function.
I'm gonna get you there if you're very careful.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
I'm going to get you there if you're very careful.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
I'm going to get you there if you're very careful.
The subject-verb agreement means that the verb should agree with the subject in person and number. The basic principle is that singular subjects need singular verbs, plural subjects need plural verbs. For example, the price of jeans is reasonable. The boy who won 2 medals is a friend of mine. An old chair with broken legs has sat in our basement for years. The indefinite pronouns anyone, everyone, someone, no one, nobody are always singular and therefore require singular verbs. For example, everyone has done his or her homework. Some indefinite pronouns, such as all, some, are singular or plural depending on what they are referring to. Be careful choosing a verb to accompany such pronouns. For example, some of the bees are missing. Some of the water is gone. Punctuation are also what we need to pay attention to. Here are some tips to help you use punctuation correctly. Take note of punctuation that go in pairs in case you forget one of them. For example, the quotation marks and brackets. Use question marks for direct questions. Check spacing between punctuations. Usually, you need to enter a space after punctuations and then continue your writing. Differentiate hyphen from dash. In written conversation, place full stops within quotation marks. For example, he said, "I'm back." The full stop should be put right after the last word of the sentence, back. As for spelling, first, please make sure that you spell the words right. You can use the spell check tool, but you cannot always rely on it, since some words may be spelled correctly but used incorrectly. For example, the spell check tool will not highlight lot for loot. You should also pay attention to American English and British English spellings, and make sure you spell consistently throughout. Now, let's move on to the next part, about how to find errors in your paper. Firstly, make a checklist of all the mistakes that you usually make. Once you identify the errors you usually make, here are some ways of finding them in a particular piece of writing. Try to read one error at a time. For example, grammar, vocabulary, or even just reading for verb tenses errors, article errors. If you try to look for everything, you won't see as much. In the same way, read one sentence at a time. One problem most people have is that they read too fast because you know the writing. So, you have to train yourself to slow down. If you are proofreading on paper, you can take another piece of paper to uncover every line. If you proofread on a computer, press Enter after every sentence. This will help you look closely at each sentence. Read slowly and read aloud. You may hear errors that you don't hit. Read backwards is also very useful. It means that you read the last sentence and the next sentence, and so on. It will make your writing sound unfamiliar and strange, which is good because you don't want to think about the content when you do proofreading. You want to look at only the language. You may find many mistakes that you couldn't see otherwise. It is found useful to change the appearance of the text. If you write on a computer, you can print out a hard copy or change color and size of your writing to make your writing look unfamiliar. Another good technique is to circle or highlight areas that you know are problems for you. So you can use a color pencil to highlight, for example, all the verb tenses or articles, and then read them carefully to see if they are correct. After finding the errors, you have to fix them, and here are some tips to do that. Again, I want to call your attention that please don't rely on the grammar checker. On the other hand, you are suggested to use a good learner's dictionary. A dictionary can help you with your spelling, grammar, and the usage of each word. Check your style guide for your field that will give you answers to questions like citation, reference, and format. You may also use the reference work software, if you are writing research papers. For more information about the referrals, you can ask a librarian for help. If you have grammar questions, you need to prepare a grammar book. Therefore, you can look up the grammar items that you are not quite sure about at any time. Besides, you can also ask for the others' help. Here is the reference. This is the end of this workshop. Thank you for watching this video. If you have further problems, please come to the Crew Tutors. Crew office is located on the ground floor of UM Library. You are warmly welcomed to visit us. For more information, you can visit the website of English Language Center, University of Macau. Thank you.